a lot of clients have come to us and said, you know what, it's different from a lot of salons. And I never really understand it, but because of the way that I deliver services and I train everyone to behave and how we come across, it's all I've ever known working in London. So I think because, a lot of places are very different locally, they don't have that sort of experience. I think that's what makes us stand out from the rest. Like everything is very, I don't have phones on the shop floor, and, you speak in a way that's inviting. You offer every single person a drink, and you always make sure the client is satisfied. The client journey is the most important thing when you come to my salon, and making sure you're happy.
Hello and welcome back to the Face It podcast, run by Faces Consent, an app by practitioners for practitioners. I'm your host Jess, and today we have a brand new face to the podcast. But of course, before we begin, I did just want to mention that we have recently rolled out Faces Verified. This is our brand new verification scheme on the app. If you want to let clients know that you are fully insured, qualified and a trusted service provider, you can grab yourself an extra 50 quid in your Faces shop wallet by submitting your documentation and getting yourself that verification badge. So it's worth having, guys. Don't forget you can rate, review and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. It helps us obviously so much. There's loads of information now, tips, industry advice from loads of professionals available on this podcast. We are now in, I think, 118 episodes into the show. So if you'd like the chance to come and chat to me about your experiences, share your own stories, your own expertise, then of course you can let me know. You can find us on Instagram at FaceItPod or message me personally at Jess_Messenger. That's Messenger, MESSENGER. It is though now time, of course, to introduce our brand new guest today. So a warm welcome to Margarita from the Naked Lounge. Welcome to the Face It podcast.
Hello.
Hi, thank you so much for joining us today. Appreciate you giving us your time.
So,
I'm going to jump in then and get into your background just a little bit before we sort of talk about the Naked Lounge. Where did you, Margarita, start her career before you got to the stage where you opened your own business?
So I've kind of been one of the lucky ones, to be honest. I always knew pretty much at a young age that beauty was something I was very much interested in. My mum was a hairdresser, and funny enough, I had no interest in that, but she would have clients and go to their houses, and I would have my own little nail kit at like 14 years old, and I would just ask the client that was having their hair done, can I paint your nails for you? So I would be doing all like their nail painting, and obviously I didn't charge anything for it. It was more for me because I enjoyed it. And then moving from there, I kind of just did nails pretty much all the time. And then I went to school, finished school, and decided I wanted to go into beauty. So I did that. And then from 17, I had my first big job where I was in central London, and I was there for about 10 and a half, 11 years after that. So built most of it all through central London in a huge salon.
How was that working from central London, of all places? Like what was that experience like for you?
I think for me, it was the best thing I did because I previously at 16 worked in a little local salon where I'm from in Essex, and it was low key. It was just, a regular salon. And then from that to jump to central London, it's a completely different world. Customer care is completely different. The way the services are performed and delivered, and just, everything from front of house to service to leaving, you learn so much about how to deliver and present yourself and be better, really, because there's so many people from around the world. You learn so much. So that for me was probably the best thing I did to learn everything I needed to learn to get me where I am today.
That's it. I mean, you can't get any bigger, any faster paced, any busier than working sort of central London, can you? And I think, like you say, you learn on your feet. You're clearly one of those that just sort of jumps in with both feet and thinks, I'm just gonna crack on and do it.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously you're learning so much on the go. And as you say, the busyness, I mean, that gets you up to speed. You could pretty much do a manicure in like a shape and paint in 10 minutes because you knew you were back to back with appointments. So you just got better. And I quite like the challenge sometimes.
Yeah. So we'll move on to your microblading a little bit because so where did that come in your career then? So you sort of worked around your mum, then you went into your nails. How and when did microblading enter the conversation?
So, funny story, I loved waxing. So, when I was in central London, I did part nails, part waxing, and I absolutely was petrified of touching eyebrows. And I would often go to the call centre team and I would say to all the girls, please, please, please don't book me any eyebrows in. I can't do it. I'm going to
Wow.
take someone's eyebrow off and I don't want to be responsible for it. And I remember that my manager was sat there one day and she turned around, I hadn't even noticed her, and she said, Margarita, now that's not one way to do your job, is it? She said, the only way that you can get better at brows is if we book you up with all the brows. So she
Oh
made
no.
sure that everyone booked eyebrows in with me, and I was so nervous.
Oh, bless.
I have to thank her to this day because it was the best thing she did. I then become obsessed with doing eyebrows and making sure I could get this shape and that shape. And people would come into me and say, I want this eyebrow, but I'd look and they had this eyebrow. And I thought, how are we going to manage that? And it wasn't until one day when someone said to me, why don't you go and do a microblading course? And I thought, what on earth is that? Never heard of it.
Mm.
And then I looked it up and I realised semi-permanent makeup is exactly what I needed, because I was often saying to clients, you know, you need a bit more of a tail to get that kind of shape. And if only your arms
Mm.
were a bit higher, or if only we could bring the middles in a bit more, you'd have a brilliant shape. And this is exactly what did that for me. So with that, saved up all my pennies, off I went, I did the course, but I didn't actually do much of it once I'd finished. So it kind of just sat there in the background for a while because I was so busy at work, obviously 5 days a week, and I'd start early, finish late. By the time I got home, it was an hour trip to get back home. So I didn't really do too much with it. It was more just there.
Mm.
I guess, and then I started when I quit my job in London, and I took some time out, and I got bored, and I
Mm.
thought, well, now what? I don't want to work in doing that again. And I thought, well, I'll just do a couple of eyebrows and see how that goes. So that's where my first business came from. And I created a little place in the back of my house called Hidden Beauty, because it was a hidden beauty room. No one knew where it was.
Nice.
And I just promoted myself to do eyebrows for free. And
Mm.
I did them, well, I'll say free, probably at like £50, like really, really basic,
Mm.
to get some content, just to get like a feel for it. And I got lots of friends and lots of family. And then as I started building up my portfolio, I did endless amount of paid ads and
Mm.
boosted my posts. And I got lots and lots of clients. And I kept my price low. And I built and I built and I built. And then I put it up year by year.
Mm.
And I was there for about 4 years, or 3 to 4 years from home.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I guess that kind of just blew up, which was amazing. And then I started deciding that I needed something a bit more professional. Like I'd gone from this huge 5-star professional salon to like in the
Sure.
back of the shed. And it kind of didn't fit who I was as a person. I thought, they're walking through my house, knocking on my front door. My mum and dad are like, oh, hello. Yep, she's just in the garage. Off you go. And
Yeah.
it didn't seem like that same delivery that I was talking about in central London, where they would, you've got an amazing front of house, and then
Mm.
down
It's
they
part
often
of the experience.
exactly, yeah. And I didn't
Mm.
feel like that was really, I felt like that was letting me down at the time. So I thought, you know what, I need a shop. And then I was on the hunt for a shop.
Wow. So what year was this when you were just starting to go out on your own with your brows,
Yeah.
and you were putting on paid posts and boosting and stuff like that? What year would that have been?
So if I've had Naked Lounge for 4 years, so we opened Naked Lounge just before COVID. So
Yeah.
it would have been 3 years before that. So COVID was
Wow.
19, 18, 17, around
Yeah.
maybe 2016 or
16,
17,
17, yeah. So
around
it's
then.
sort of that kind of that boom, that brow boom as well with YouTube and makeup, and it was quite a time, wasn't it? I think for people learning and having tutorials and going online and looking on Instagram and really starting to take an interest in beauty in a way that had never really had that much attention before. I don't think. I remember 2016 being quite a time for that. It's just interesting, and putting on boosts and things, something I would probably look at and still do to this day. I think people think less of it now. I think people think that they have to always put loads and loads on Google Ads, and actually there is something to be said for boosting still, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I
Interesting.
mean, I think for boosting, for me, it's like, it's reaching an audience that I think
Mm,
you don't know, that who don't know you. But if
mm,
someone's typing in microblading in Essex, or like
mm,
brow transformations, etc., and you put a boost on your post that has those hashtags, it
mm.
potentially can land on that person's page who hasn't found you. So
It's good
I
brand
think,
awareness.
yeah, of course. You're able to reach people who are not following you, and those that want to follow you, or if you even get a client out of that, amazing. But I think, again, it's just about pushing your work out there, because someone's going to see that who might like it, or someone spoke to
Mm,
someone about getting their eyebrows done and they see it, forward it onto that person, and they go, "There's a client for you." So
mm,
I do think, you don't have to spend millions of pounds, but it's great to sort of every so often push your
mm.
content
It's a
out
good
there. Of
place to start, isn't it?
course, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're clearly a grafter. You obviously put absolutely everything into every business or every job that you've had. How has microblading changed over the past sort of 5 to 10 years? Have you seen a shift during that time?
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, I feel like microblading a good 5 to 10 years ago was very, very popular. It was the thing that everyone was doing. People would look at it as like magic. You wake up, you don't have to worry about it. But obviously,
Mm,
as you know, everything evolves, and now we've got like all different kinds. You've got nano brows, feathered brows. You've got combination brows, and there's so many different things where it's machine and it's um, blading, which is manual, obviously manual tool. So I feel like it really depends on the style and who you are and what you want your result to look like. So
mm,
I personally only I stayed with just microblading because it fits my style, it fits my brand. Shading is more of like a makeup brow. It's a little bit heavier, still looks absolutely amazing, but I feel like it's not really what I like to give. I like to
mm,
stay with the more natural effect, something that is just helping people have what they should have had, as opposed
mm,
to what they've got at the time. So I mean, I feel like with microblading now, it's probably slightly less popular because more people follow fashion trends, and that whole
mm,
combination and shaded brow and ombre brow is more popular now. But you will always have people that will always go for basic first to start
yeah.
with, and you
Mm.
can build up from that. So it's a good stepping stone to see how you feel in terms of if you want to go stronger, heavier, shady, or if you want to stay light and natural and soft. And I do think that comes down to age as well.
Mm. I think it's really interesting that you've chosen to really stick with something that aligns with you, and I think that's a really, really smart move, and actually a really difficult one. It's very easy to get shiny thing syndrome, I like to call it.
Mm.
Especially as a practitioner, it's very easy to get distracted by new treatments, new methods, and you want to learn this and you want to train in that and you want to offer this and you want to offer that, and it's sometimes actually to the detriment of your business because you end up straying so far away from your core message or your core client. So, round of applause for really, really sticking with that and being very determined that this is my brand, this is who I am, this is the service that I deliver. There's less of you now, I think, and I'm guilty. I'm definitely guilty of shiny thing syndrome. Definitely.
Mhm.
100%. So, yeah, how do you manage that? How do you manage to sort of stay, nope, this is what I'm doing. Stop looking left, stop looking right, just keep going towards my goal?
I think, what, there's so many people doing what they love. And the
Mm,
main thing I've always said to myself is stick with what you love, because there will always be an audience for you. There will always be clientele for you. And if
mm,
everyone is going on to the next best thing, then who's left doing the thing that you started with?
mm,
So I feel like for me, microblading till this day is my favourite. Shading looks lovely. You can have a makeup brow, it looks lovely. But for me, you take your makeup off at the end of the day and you've still got shaded brows, it's not natural. No one has
mm,
a shaded brow naturally, and it is hair strokes. You can build on hair strokes. Like, I found so many techniques that I've taught myself over the years, and I've tried to, make it a bit more shady towards the end using, adding more hair strokes in. And
mm,
almost it kind of merges together and you get a similar kind of shaded look, but it's going to always be softer because you're not pixelating with the machine work. And it's important to just stay true to who you are. So my brand now is called Naked Lounge, and it's talking about stripping yourself back. It's talking about going
mm,
back to basics, and natural enhancements. We do absolutely everything in the salon, but it's keeping everything in a soft, natural way. So we're enhancing the natural beauty without going completely off the other end of the spectrum. So it's just also showing people that you can have things like semi-permanent makeup, you can have things like aesthetics, Botox and fillers, but you're not going to look like you're botched. It's a simpler way of doing things. It's a natural and softer way of doing things. So that's really where that comes from, in a whole different question. So for me, it was important to just stay true to who I am, to my brand, what I like to deliver. And so many people have said to me, "Oh, you'd get so many more clients if you did the shading." I said, "Well, I'd rather refer it to someone who loves doing the shading, and it will free me up some time to do the clients that want what I deliver and want what I specialize in and what I love doing." So yeah, it's just as easy as being, confident in yourself, really, and trusting your path.
Yeah, well done you. I think that's amazing that you've managed to get to that place where you can sort of go, you know what, just going to pass that on because I'm not that passionate about it, and this isn't what I'm about. It's not what my business is about. And like you say, you will attract those clients that want you for you and the way that you work and the results that you produce. So yeah, well done on that. I think we've touched on this question slightly about sort of microblading versus machine, but what are your opinions on that? Do you have any negative ones? Are there any downsides to having machine versus microblading, in your experience? And how can people decide what treatment is right for them?
So, I mean, I wouldn't say so much negative. I would say from my years of experience in seeing shaded work, I get often people come back to me and say, "Well, I want microblading." And the saturation with machinery, if it's not done correctly, can be quite heavy. And that will only then result into tattoo removal, because you can't possibly, and what I have to explain to people is, you can't over a block create a line, because it's just going to just disappear into that block. You need a clean canvas. So the only way to really do that is by having to remove it and start again. So I wouldn't say negatively, but I do feel like there's a lot of people that are not using the correct colors for certain skin tones. They're not looking years down the line on how it's going to sit in the skin. And everyone's skin filled up, if you like, is different. The saturation level, people can't keep topping up and topping up and topping up. And also people's lifestyles and the sun, it does change the color of the ink. And that's the same with microblading. It can change with that over the years, and it merges if you have, too much top ups and done. That's why I often say to people, try and keep it as, spaced out as possible. Don't overdo it.
Sure.
So in answer to your question, again, I don't have anything negative to say about it, but I do say that the removal rate comes more from people having machine work than it does from microblading, because microblading fades out quite naturally, softly. It's not heavy. Whereas, you change your mind on something and then you've got these blocky brows that turned into like an auburn red or like a grey green. And it's a bit like, oh, actually, I don't like this anymore. I want to get rid of it. I can't remember the end of the question that you asked me, actually.
No, that's right, really. I just at the end I was just interested to know, what your opinion is on and how people can decide what the right treatment is for them, I suppose, because it's quite overwhelming now. Like you say, there are a lot of options with regards to brows compared to maybe 5-10 years ago. So obviously a consultation with a practitioner, but how can people decide for themselves what might be the better method for them?
For sure. So, I really do think a lot of that is down to the practitioner. I think us being the professionals need to hear the client, ask them their day to day. I always say to people, what are you like on a regular day? Are you wearing heavy makeup constantly? What's your skin type like? Are you oily? Do you go away a lot? Do you have regular facials? Do you have, you want to figure out what the client's day to day is and how they are as a person. So also, I often ask people to show me a picture of brows that they like, and a couple of different ones, to get an idea of what they have in their mind. Because obviously, when someone comes to you for brows, they're coming to you with a picture in their head, and our job is to try and figure out what they want. So you have to ask all the right questions, and also, again, determine on their skin, would know what treatment would be best for them. There has been occasions where I've said, look, I don't think microblading is what you want. You sound like you need something a bit stronger. You want something a bit more bolder and something a bit more fuller. And if that is the case, then this isn't going to be for you, because it will mean that you'll have gaps in your brows. It's going to be hair strokes. It's light, it's soft, it's not crazy. We can build on it over the years. We can add layering, and we can layer up a few times, which will get that result long term. But if you want that result now, then you're better off going for sort of a shading and etc. Like the same thing if someone comes to me and says, well, I want this and I want this. And I say, right, well, but I want to keep it very natural. I don't want it to look heavy or great. Then you're looking at
Mm.
something microblading. How is your skin? Now, with the whole oily situation, a lot of people recommend shading, always need machine work with oily skin. I have worked with every skin type over the 8 years that I've been doing it now. And I can honestly say that it can work for oily skin. It can work for all skin types. I think it just depends on how someone looks after it. And you just keep people in the know about aftercare and how it can change. So if someone does have oily skin, but they want the microbladed look, they can have it, but bear in mind you may need regular top-ups. It may not stay as sharp and as liney as you want it to look. It will kind of merge out a little bit because of the oils in the skin. And if you can look after it properly, then you can still have it. You just might need it a little bit more regularly. So I don't ever say no so much to people, but more so when it depends on the outcome of the look that they want, as opposed to whether they're able to have it or not.
It's just about having transparent discussions, isn't it then really? And like you say, that comes down to the practitioner being honest with their clients, one about their skill level, because I think we bring it back to machine. There's a lot of the skill required on both, but there's a different skill set required with machine. And like you say, if you can't achieve that by machine, what they're looking for, you've got to be honest about that and say, I don't think I'm the practitioner for you. You maybe need to go to a hyperrealism machine artist who's, softer by hand, or I'm maybe a little bit on the heavier side. So yeah, it's just having transparent discussions and being willing to be honest. And like you say, being willing to turn a client away and say, you know what, I don't think microblading is right for you, and having a list of practitioners you can send them to, because I love to do that. If I know someone who's really great at that thing that this person really wants, and I'm probably not that person, I will say, I do have 2 or 3 people I can recommend to you though. And it's these people that I would say are probably better suited. And I think clients thank you for that anyway. And they may come back for something else. So they might not see you for microblading, but they might come back to the Naked Lounge, which we'll get onto in a bit, and go see someone else for aesthetics or whatever. So you've retained the client in-house. Yes, they didn't have microblading with you, but actually they really appreciated you and your consultation process and your honesty and your transparency. So you've still retained them within Naked Lounge as a whole. And I think sometimes people forget that element to it as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like a lot of our clients, a lot of my clients that I've been very honest with about, treatments in general have always said to me, like, I really appreciate you being honest about that. Not many people would do that. They'd think, oh, it's another client, let's just take it on. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is that's going to be your name on that person's face. And you have to remember that every person you touch is an advertisement for you. And be it good, it has to be, I have to approve of what I'm doing. And if I don't approve of it, I won't do it.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Why did you begin laser tattoo removal then? Because you've now got that as a service as well, haven't you? What was your reason for adding that as a treatment option?
Again, so I used to have someone come in the salon, but it used to be like every 5 weeks, and it kind of didn't work because people needed patch tests and stuff like that. And I thought, you know what, it was quite a popular treatment, and I really wanted to offer it. Being someone that's had laser hair removal, 9 years hair free, still going. It was something I used to rave about all the time, and I thought, I rave about it so often, but I've got no one to do it. I'm already level 4 trained, so I thought, you know what, I'll do it. So off I went and I did the course, and then I found a machine that I think I absolutely loved, and I decided to go ahead with it. And actually what I found is I went in to go and buy a laser hair removal machine, and I left with one that done absolutely everything, because I'm just a gadget person.
Yeah.
I love all sorts of things. And I thought, right, it does tattoo removal, it does skin treatments, it does laser hair removal. Well, I've got to go for that one, haven't I? So I did, and it worked out great because, as I mentioned, since obviously everyone's been getting these brows done and tattoo and microblading and all sorts, so many people have now started to need removal, because it's been years since that whole craze of tattoos happened, and people are now changing their minds. The fashion's changed again. They want these fluffy laminated brows, and can't do that with a load of tattoo underneath. So it then become my thing to focus my energy more into removal of brow tattooing and starting people all over again. And that's where kind of like the whole obsession of removing brows and redoing brows came from, and I have to say it's probably one of my favourite treatments at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, is that because it's the kind of transformation you can kind of they come in with their expectations, you have to reset their expectations, you take them through that process and that journey of having to go through removal, and then
Yeah.
you can kind of do that cherry on top treatment at the end, which is actually what they really came in for. I'm assuming that must be quite a nice thing to be able to do for somebody, is take them from where they started to that kind of dream finish.
Yeah, and I have so many people that have come to me with terrible
Mm.
botched jobs,
I've
and
seen them. I've seen them. It's bad.
it's really bad. I have one on my
Yeah.
page, pinned it. There was one that I actually removed all her brows and then we redid them eventually. So I've done a start to finish, and it's just so
Wow.
rewarding to say, this is what you came in with. Now look at you.
Mm.
We got there. And don't get me wrong, it's definitely a long process, but once you stick with it and you get it done, it's possible. And
Yeah.
there's now in the pudding. But I just love the fact that now it's building confidence in other people to think, because everyone's so scared of laser, but the way the machines are built these days, and if you know what you're doing,
Yeah.
it can be done, and it can be done fine. It doesn't damage the hair follicle. It's not damaging the skin. You make sure that everything's done on the correct levels. And I really enjoy it, removing it. It's so satisfying to see that ink be lifted and that
Yeah.
over the top, and then you can't wait for them to come back just to see how
You
much is
want to see, yeah, you want to see how far
yeah,
you got with it. How many
exactly.
sessions on average does it take to kind of get that brow to a stage where you can work with it, over it, or is there sort of a number that and it's difficult to say, isn't it? Because every single one is different, but I'm interested to know what your average is.
Yeah, of course. I think it really does depend. That'd be my dog, sorry.
You're all right.
Someone knocked on the door. So yeah, no, I think it really does depend, because I've had some of my clients that have come back that want to change their style. And
Mm,
like I say, it's perfectly normal. People that I've seen 6 to 8 months ago, and they've been like, oh, you know what? I've loved having my brows done, but now I feel like my eyebrows have grown back a bit, and I want to go for that, more like gelling them up, etc. So
mm,
I find, like, with certain inks, it's very different. Some people use body ink, some people use, like, semi-permanent makeup tattoo ink, like eyebrow
mm,
ink. It's all very different. Back in the day with machine work, I feel like they used to use the ink that you'd use on your body. I
yeah,
tried to remove some of those, and that would in turn take a lot longer to get rid
mm,
of. So an example is I've removed a brow in 2 sessions, and I've
mm,
removed a brow in 7 and 8 sessions.
yeah. So
So
somewhere in between.
yeah, it can be absolutely anything. Again, it depends on how the body breaks the ink down. It depends on the ink used. It depends on how long it's been there, how many sessions they've had
Mm,
over that brow, and how many inks have been on top of it. So yeah, I always kind of try and say to people, we know more by, like, after we've done the patch test, about 2 weeks later, you see
mm.
what's remaining. You can see if the colour's turned, because you also get that. And then you decide from there sort of roughly how long it's going to be.
What are some of the misconceptions about laser tattoo removal that people have got?
I think they feel like it makes their hair fall out. They're going to get scarring on their skin. I
Mm,
think there's sometimes a real negative feel about laser tattoo removal, because of the old school machines, and the people say, oh, it's going to burn your skin, and your skin's never going to grow back, your hair's not going to grow back, you're going to have this white ring around it. Don't get me wrong, there's always a danger in everything we do. There's
mm,
always something that could possibly go wrong, and that's with anything. We just have to make sure we make people aware of possible risks. We're never going to know, because skin is the largest organ, and everyone will react differently. Sorry. So
mm.
I feel like there doesn't have to be so much, like, scaredness around it. I think
Yeah.
if you go in and then you have a chat with somebody, like your practitioner at the time, ask the questions that you're most scared of, and just see their knowledge, see what they know, ask the right questions. But there is now so much more technology that has just been improved over the years that gets to almost being impossible to go wrong with them.
Mm. And it's on the skill level and the knowledge of your practitioner, doesn't it? Like you say, it's one of those where they need to really understand what they're doing with it. So just do a bit of research and find someone who's comprehensive in their knowledge. They've done the courses. You've used it a lot on different types of inks as well, lots of different types of skin, so that they know how to handle the full breadth really of skin that's being presented to them. So what is it that you love about brows then? Like why brows? Why do you love them so much?
I think coming from that place where I was so nervous to do them, and then got to a point where I become obsessed with perfecting brows, I think it's been a really great journey for me. And a lot of people feel, they will come to me for everything brows. So it become my thing by the end of it, because I was, proud of my hard work in terms of getting over that fear. And then,
Yeah.
being able to look at somebody's face and say, right, well, your brow needs to sit here and your brow needs to sit here. And learning everything about brows, they're not always even. Hair grows in all different flows. Everyone's face shapes are different, and one brow will never be the same as the other brow. And just being able to have a lot of knowledge to give to people, it felt like that was my direction that I felt really confident going in. And I mean, I've never been great at art. And the story that when I started doing microblading, I told my parents I'm going to be tattooing people's eyebrows, and my sister especially, and they just looked at me like,
Like you had two heads.
honestly, they were like, "Are you sure this is what you want to do?" I mean, I'm a sick man. So, I mean, when you love something, it just pours out of you. And I practiced for months before I went on to doing any people. I was on skin pads. I would do it on everything until I felt confident enough to say, right, I think I'm ready. But
Mm.
actually, you learn on the job. You really do learn
You
on the job.
do. You do.
Skin's quite
Nothing is quite comparable to actual skin, is it?
serious.
And as much as you want to work on fake skins and, um, fruits and melons and whatever else, it's never quite the same as working in the real thing. So yeah, you can do all that, and then you've just got to, at some point, you've got to bite the bullet and do that first client. And it is scary. It is scary. I think your first 20 clients is scary, I think, when you're tattooing them, particularly. I
Yeah.
think because it is, it's not that easy to remove. It isn't like Botox that wears off in 3 months. It's not like filler that can be dissolved. They've got to go through this whole removals process. So it's quite nerve-wracking to think, if I get this wrong and I get it really, really wrong, this person's going to have to go on this whole journey just to get back to where they are today. And that's quite a big pressure.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it
And it's
is.
also something that I think of, the client has chose you, and
Yeah,
there's a reason why
they've
they've
trusted
chosen
you.
you. So, it's your job to always see their vision, and it's your job
Mm,
to create your work. And that's why I think it's also important to stick to what you love doing as opposed to what everyone's doing. Because
mm,
if I do every style of brow, my clients aren't going to be sure what they're leaving with. Whereas if they know I
yeah,
do that soft look, my brows are always consistent in the way that they look, whether it's darker, fuller, thicker,
mm,
they are always still microbladed. They're always still that same, pretty much that same outcome. So
yeah.
they know that that's my work consistently, so that you get clients that are more sure of you and they trust you more.
Yeah, it's interesting you've said that. I've heard that from a few practitioners actually, that to sort of, like you say, you've got your niche, but actually it's really helpful from a client point of view that if you're displaying lots of different styles, even if you are capable, there's nothing wrong with being capable at lots of different styles, but they don't know what they're going to walk out with. It makes it very hard to, look at your page and look at your portfolio and think that's the person I want to go with. So it actually probably stops people from booking. They
Yeah,
like predictability, I think, especially when you're wielding tattoo ink. They like to be able to look at it and go, yeah, I know exactly what I'm going to come out with.
yeah.
And I have heard that from a few of you actually. So let's take it on to the Naked Lounge now then. So why did you decide to open the Naked Lounge when you did? We touched on the fact that you worked at home. You obviously wanted a bit more of that London edge experience that you'd had when you were working at the other place. How did you go about finding the right location? Just give me a bit of the background on the Naked Lounge.
So yeah, it all started because I wanted something with a bit more of a professional front. I've always thought, like, what, I might want to work with magazines, I might want to work with, your local celebrities and stuff like that. And I wanted to create something that felt like an experience. And that was something that really stood out to me when I worked in central London. It was the whole experience. So I
Mm,
wanted to, from the start of them seeing our shop, and I wanted it to always look inviting and warm, and that's exactly what I wanted to create. So I think when it comes to looking, I was, funny enough, just looking for a studio for just me, or a small shop for just myself. I didn't plan on actually having a shop with potential employees in it.
Mm.
And I found somewhere that I quite liked. It was local to where I lived. I didn't want to be back in central London, but I wanted to bring London to where I am so I can elevate the area with, a London feel. And I did find a shop, but I think there was a massive pipe burst or leak or something, and then the asking price was way too much. So I thought, I can't really do that. It was all a bit of a thought at the time when I was looking. And then I came across this shop who actually my dad was in previously, and he had left, and the place became available. And just out of question, I sort of said, "Oh, so who's taking over that place? That's empty." And he said, "Oh, I'm not sure. He's probably going to rent it out, find someone else for it." And I went, "Well, what about me? I know
Mm.
the area. I feel comfortable there." And he said, "Well, it's a big shop. What are you going to do with that?" And my
Mm.
reply was, "Well, I'll just rent it out to a couple of people, make a few
I'll
rooms.
I'll fill it.
I'll do it." Like, it was always we'll just get it done, right? Don't
Yeah.
worry about the how, it will happen. And I kind of have always lived a bit like that. I always wanted a shop, and I've always dreamed about having a shop, but I never actually thought I would go ahead and do it. I was never planning on opening one until I decided that working from home just wasn't for me anymore. And it was like, well, the only next step is to get my own shop, because I won't go back and work for somebody. So I did. I found this, and then we kind of just went in with the asking about it and finding out whether we could change it to a salon. And once that got approved, it was then like, oh, okay, would you want to go ahead with it? And that's when it was like, right, you've got to sign the papers now. This is going to be
Yeah.
yours.
It's real.
And I sat there for a second. I thought, oh my God, do I want it? What do I
Yeah.
do? How do I do it? I've never owned a salon before. Surely it can't be that hard. And it was like I had two people sitting on the side of me going, what are you thinking? Someone else,
Yeah.
go on, go for it. And I'm like, ah. So I think in that sense, I just went, yeah, signed it. Before you know it, I'm getting the place done. And everything's
Yeah.
just happening so fast.
Mm.
And then COVID.
Of course. Yeah, of course. How was that? Was that a few months after you managed to open it? Like, when did that hit?
No, so we were in the process of finishing touches just before trading. So it
Wow.
caught me at a really bad time because we hadn't opened or traded, we had no help. Uh,
Yeah. Oh, no.
so I just had to hang in there. Again,
Yeah.
social media was my best bet because so many people were going for walks. I would constantly be in the salon even when it wasn't open,
Yeah.
just to be there to tidy up. I kept the windows open, the doors open, so people
Yeah.
coming by, I was already trying to introduce myself. Like, we're going to be a
Yeah.
salon, we're going to be this, and I was trying to get to know the local faces because so many people were out and about. It was actually a great
Mm.
time for me to introduce myself slowly to everyone in the local area, and
Mm.
because we'd done it up like not many salons at the time, it was quite, a lot of people would pop their heads in and be like, "Hi, like, is this a juice bar?" And I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, it's a salon." They're like, "Oh, amazing." So when it come to opening, I had everyone follow us on Instagram, and I was posting time slots and appointments for everyone to book in before we opened, when we had the, potential opening dates.
Yeah.
So I was fully booked on the day I
Wow.
opened when we were in.
Wow.
So yeah,
Amazing.
and we kept doing that through closing and opening and staying consistent and, keeping the relevance on our Instagram, and we kept it going and going as much as we could. I mean, it was hard because obviously we weren't trading and rent still needed to be paid. So
Yeah.
we just had to kind of hope for the best, and I just kept the faith.
That's crazy. Well done you. Like, the timing's absolutely awful, like you say. Yeah, the fact you've managed to just bite the bullet and just get yourselves through that, and it looks absolutely stunning. It is. It's a gorgeous looking salon. You've got a really strong brand. You've positioned yourself as a luxury salon. How has positioning yourself in this way helped you to grow the business in the local area?
I think we have a different feel, and often a lot of clients have come to us and said, "You know what? It's different from a lot of salons," and I
Mm.
never really understand it, but because of the way that I deliver services and I train everyone to behave and how we come across, it's all I've ever known working in London. So I
Mm.
think because a lot of places are very different locally, they don't have that sort of experience. I think that's what makes us stand out from the rest. Like everything is very, I don't have phones on the shop floor, and I
Mm.
don't sort of, you speak in a way that's inviting. You offer every single person a drink, and you always make sure the client is satisfied. The client journey is the most important thing when you come to my salon, and making sure you're happy and creating that safe space, something that's fun, something that's, you feel like family, you feel like friends with everyone, but yet it's still professional, and you will always receive a great treatment, because that is the most important thing. So I think that's what kind of separates us from everybody else, is having that London knowledge and me passing that down to everyone that works here, and that we have the same, idea of how we want to portray ourselves.
You've built a great team with you as well. Obviously, I've been through your website and stuff like that. You've got, I believe you've got, have you got a doctor there as well, delivering aesthetics? Is that right?
We have a doctor and a nurse. So
Mm,
a doctor comes in sort of every so often, more sort of when we're crested. We have a nurse who's a bit more available as and when as well. She does more clinic days. We've
mm,
also got a lash technician who is a specialist in lashes. So I make sure everything stays as specialists. So we don't do
mm.
generalists here. We have
Yeah.
only specialists. So lash specialist, I'm your laser and brow specialist. We've got nail specialists and aesthetic, obviously, only,
Mm,
and like facial and skin specialists as well.
mm. Yeah, and I think that, that helps you to continue to charge proper prices. And I think that's important mentioning about that luxury positioning. I come from a product background as well. So the brand that I had before was luxury products. And it was a choice that I made on purpose, because I didn't want my product to be subpar because I was being squeezed by price choice.
Yeah,
So for me, making sure that I delivered, a luxury service or a luxury product was about being able to fully give everything I could to that end result. So if I've got more money to play with coming into the business, that means I can manufacture better products, or for yourself, you can deliver a better service, you can invest in better, products that you use, the experience itself, you can give free drinks and, free things to your clients, because it's not everything is crunched by numbers constantly. So I think that's worth mentioning to people on here that are listening. A lot of them are aesthetic practitioners. We've got a lot of issues in the industry at the moment with margins being squeezed an awful lot. People are into competitive pricing now. And it's worth reminding people that it's not, don't get into the price war at all. Really, really focus and hone in on who you are as a practitioner, what your core message is, what the experience is with you, investing in quality products, investing in a quality atmosphere, investing in quality aftercare if you do provide aftercare to your clients, and price it according to that. I think that's a really, really key message.
absolutely. And I think also it's about being who you want to be. There will
Mm,
be lower end spectrum, there'll be middle end spectrum, and then there's a higher end spectrum. There's people out there that charge £600 for
mm,
eyebrows, and
mm,
that's their worth. That's what they believe that their experience and their journey has brought them to. And there will always be an audience for every kind of customer. You
yeah.
will you will always find that there is customers for every value of whatever you're charging. So I
Mm,
think, decide who you want to be, decide what where you want to position yourself, and become that person, and you
mm.
will always have clients.
Yeah, you will attract the right client
You will always try.
according to that. And I
Yeah,
think there's a lot of worry and concern at the moment that people can't charge the right prices. And I'd say that that's rubbish and it's nonsense. Don't look at the fact that other people are charging £50 or £100 less on Botox or filler than you.
yeah,
Just worry about the service that you deliver and constructing that environment and that message and that social media based around that, and the clients will come, the ones that align with that particular messaging anyway.
yeah. I totally agree.
So we are coming towards the end of the episode now, Margarita, but I am interested to know what's next for you, what's next for the Naked Lounge.
So at the moment, I've been trying to give this a little bit of thought, actually, because I'm someone that will start something and then I'm ready for my next
Yeah.
thing. I'm quite an ambitious person. So
Mm,
I was wondering this the other day. I've now got my full team, and I want to set everyone up so everything runs nice and smooth. I'm hoping to, at some point, get myself to a place where I can start to teach maybe a little bit more, and build people up to, a greater level of perfection. Whether it's another salon, possibly. There's a few ideas brewing, which I probably won't really speak about just yet. But I want to make sure just Naked is completely and perfectly run before I jump into any other pies. To be honest, yeah.
No, it's amazing what you've done. It looks absolutely stunning. You clearly are passionate and, about your clients, about your business. So congratulations on doing an amazing job with it. If you can let our community know and our listeners know where they can find you, where they can find the Naked Lounge online.
Yeah, so you can find us on our website, which is www.naked-lounge.com. You can also find us on Instagram, which is naked.lounge, and we are based in Chigwell, Essex.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Margarita, for sharing your story with us today, sharing your expertise, and giving us your time as well. And I wish you the best of luck with everything with the Naked Lounge in the future. And we'll have to catch up with you maybe in a year's time and see where you are and see what you're getting on with.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
No, you're welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.